In this video, we're going to explain how to configure L2TP in the most simplest form. This is using the framed IP address configuration setting in our network, in the Core Transit network, and then it's also going to NAT a single IP address to the hosts inside of your network. This is a great option if you need a static or predictable IP address when you're on Starlink or an LTE service provider such as AT&T or T-Mobile. This will give you that consistent IP address, and this example is going to be basic NATing through that L2TP connection through Core Transit so that you always have a predictable IP address when using the internet. So the topology of this network is going to look like something like I have on the screen here. You may have your Mikrotik router ready. We are going to explain how to configure the Mikrotik in this simplest form. And like I said, the Core Transit setting for this single IP address is the framed IP address setting. There's other videos that we're putting together that explain the framed route settings for when you have multiple IP addresses. So with that being said, let's dive into the Mikrotik configuration and get started. To get started with a Mikrotik router, I'm going to assume you have a default Mikrotik router that you're going to configure. If you already have it configured, you probably know a little bit more about the system than I'm assuming in this video. But simply what you can do is attach your laptop or computer to a LAN interface on your Mikrotik. Go ahead and let it get an address via DHCP, and then look at that default gateway address, and that's the address of the Mikrotik. Most of the times it's 192.168.88.1. Throw that address in your web browser and you should get a screen that looks like this. Of course, this is the web administration page. You could use Winbox or some other administration tool to administer this thing. In this case, I'm going to keep it really simple and log into the web page to administer it. Once you're logged in, you'll land at the interfaces page initially. To get started with an L2TP tunnel, we want to go to PPP on the left-hand side here. Go ahead and hit Add New, and an L2TP client. Inside this window, you can give this interface a comment. We'll call it Core Transit just for clarity's sake. Scroll down just a little bit. Click Connect to next. This is the L2TP server, and in this case, we'll use peering 1.DallasFortWorth 1.CoreTransit.io. There's a number of different L2TP servers that are available in the Core Transit network, so ensure that you got the right one. This information in this section will all be in your Core Transit provisioning email. Go ahead and give it your username and the password you were assigned by Core Transit as well. The profile can remain the same. Scroll down just a little bit further to add default route. You want to add the default route. This allows all traffic on your network to flow over this L2TP tunnel. Default route distance can remain set to 1. One note here is if your WAN interface is getting an IP address via DHCP, I believe it typically is a distance of 10 on that WAN interface. You want to make sure that this route distance is lower than what is assigned otherwise on your system. When you're done, come up and hit Apply. And assuming all details are correct, you will notice the status indicator change a few times, and it should settle on connected. You can scroll to the bottom and actually see traffic being passed on the interfaces in the traffic graphs. The counter should be incrementing both in and out in terms of traffic information. When you're satisfied with that, go ahead and navigate to IP, firewall, and NAT. You'll notice the default NAT rule is a masquerade rule. It's changing the source NAT, and its external or outside interface is the WAN interface. We want to go ahead and emulate that, but instead of using the WAN interface, which is that external interface, physical interface, we want to actually have the traffic natted through to that Core Transit IP address that's assigned to our L2TP interface. So go ahead and hit New. You could give it a descriptor, call it Core Transit. Source NAT is the default. Scroll down outside, call it L2TP, and finally scroll basically the whole way to the bottom where it says Action and select Masquerade. When you're done, jump back to the top, click Apply, and then click OK. You'll notice that the Core Transit rule is second on the list. I actually recommend pulling it to the top of the list, just like that. You'll see it is now in the first position, rule number 0, followed by rule number 1, which was the default. And this will allow this rule to be hit first for traffic that is coming into your router, which is essentially what we want. We want it to be natted out through the L2TP interface. Now, it's also worth noting that if the L2TP tunnel is down, this rule will be essentially grayed out and disabled, allowing traffic to default back to the default rule. This essentially allows your system to keep operating even if there's some type of failure with the L2TP tunnel, or there's an issue in the Core Transit network, something like that. The only downside is you really, it should just work normally. You probably won't even know that there's a problem unless you go and check which IP address is in use, which I'm going to show you how to do right now. If you do a Google search for what is my IP address, it's going to show you a couple different options. There's websites you could go to that list your IP address, but if you scroll down just a little bit, what is my IP address? That question is answered by Google directly, and here you can see the IP address that is assigned from the Core Transit network. I mentioned this NAT rule would be disabled. Actually, I want to show you what that looks like really quick. I'm going to go to PPP. I'm going to disable the PPP interface, and I'm going to go back to Firewall and NAT, and you'll actually see this is grayed out. L2TP is not ready, and this is essentially out of service now until I go back and re-enable that interface. Hopefully that's been helpful. If you have other questions or comments, be sure to comment below or open a case with us. We are always happy to help. With that being said, I want to thank you for watching.